I'm bloody furious.
My blood is boiling here listening to this. This ludicrous government.
Absolutely disgusting. Give me that money. Let me get out of here into a private rental because that'll pay 6 months' rent. Will that £10,000 for me?
You were born and bred here, you see, Maxine.
Exactly.
That's why the cash doesn't apply to you. Now, you may be aware that LBC earlier this morning has revealed an exclusive story by my colleague Natasha Clark. Families of failed asylum seekers will be paid up to £40,000 to voluntarily leave the UK within 7 days. That would require that, as I say, they'd have to go within 7 days. It would be £10,000 per person, capped at £40,000. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, at the moment, Nicky, you might be surprised, or certainly your listeners might be surprised to hear that the average cost of housing a family in a hotel is £158,000 a year. We're doing a targeted pilot at 150 families that, if is effective in its totality, will lead to a saving of £20 million for the taxpayer. The people we're talking about are families who have failed in their initial application, they've failed in their appeal, they have no live asylum application in this country, and no, frankly, not a future in the country. It's not good for them, not good for the children. So we're supporting them, as has been done before in the past, but we're increasing the levels in this pilot of support up to that number to incentivise them to leave.
That's quite a reward for failure, isn't it?
Well, it's in the British taxpayers' interest, and that's the judgment that we make. To reward
£40,000. Surely this will act as a magnet for more people to try and get to the United Kingdom.
Well, first of all, this is a pilot on people already in the system. Right. So there's no pull factor in that element. It is...
If I'm sitting in Calais and I hear, guess what? If you get to the United Kingdom, even if you fail, if you take your wife or husband and 2 children, they'll give you £40,000 to leave. You don't see that as a pull factor?
No, I don't, because I know what those people are being told already, which is if you get to the UK and if you fail, they won't be able to fail in your application. They won't be able to remove you. Now, we are making changes, including our domestic interpretation of Article 8 of the ECHR, to make sure that we can remove people. But voluntary removals, which is something that previous governments have done, in fact, I believe is a matter of political consensus across the spectrum, that's a way in which countries do. Denmark have done it and had fabulous success with it, that we think helps find that balance for the British taxpayer and help those individuals build their lives.
So, just to clarify, the UK government, a husband and wife and 2 small children, they fail on all the levels, they have crossed the channel on a rubber dinghy, will then send them back with £40,000 in their pockets?
Well, set against, Nick, what the situation today is, which will house them indefinitely, costing £158,000 a year. Which do you think is a better deal for the taxpayer?
But if they fail, why are they just sent back without any cash? Why do we have to give them £40,000?
Well,
if they failed on each of the levels that you've outlined, why do they get a cash reward? This is like the most perverse game show you can imagine.
Well, Nick, part of the policy that we're announcing today is that for those who don't take the voluntary, well, they will be removed. But as I say, this is a balance for the British taxpayer. This is better value for the British taxpayer.
But shouldn't they just be returned without any cash, Minister?
But with respect, Nick, you and I don't affect those returns. Those are very difficult returns to do. I take pelters on the media and in Parliament on this. My ideal level of voluntary returns is 100%, because I'm not the guy who's affecting it on the sharp end of it. I made the assessment, we've made the assessment that it clearly is in the British taxpayers' interest. This pilot alone could save £20 million.
How do you get to £20 million?
Because that's the difference between the amount of money we will spend on their removal and the amount of money we would have spent on their housing. Which, and frankly, that's for an indeterminate period of time. You must appreciate that point, that if people leave rather than spending an ongoing sum of money which is larger than the sum of money, that there is value in that.
And you're closer to this than I. You're an expert. You honestly don't think people will see this as an extra magnet to try and get to the United Kingdom?
Well, they certainly can't, as I say, on the pilot, because they won't be in scope for it. But as I know already the messages that come from the traffickers, which is, don't worry, Britain won't be able to remove you, and you'll acquire enough rights to eventually get to settle.
£40,000. I don't even earn £24,000 a year, and I